kind of on an example here. I've created concentric circles. So each time you create a circle, you're going to make two circles. One that is a couple of sections smaller than the first one that you did. On my main circle, the first circle, I marked the degrees. You want to put your circle maker down, put the 0 at the top, mark the center so that you know where the center of your circle is, and then based on that document that has all of the different degrees in it, whether you want a 5 circle, a 7 circle, or a 9 circle base, you're going to mark the correct degrees for which one of those designs that you want to create. I did a 5 circle design here. So that's the center circle, and I marked the 0, the 180, the 90, and the 270. And then using those marks around the main circle, those were the center of my second series of circles. So the first circle is here. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay, then I added another circle. I wanted it to connect but be smaller. So I used my ruler, and I measured 1 inch off of the side of this outer circle, and I used that as the center. So just because you have those initial 5, 7, or 9 degrees marked doesn't mean that those are the only things that you will want to use. This design right now is asymmetrical. Well, it's symmetrical, but it's going to be asymmetrical when I'm done with it. If you are intentionally making your design asymmetrical, meaning there's going to be things on the right side that are not on the left side, then that is fine. If your design is asymmetrical because you were too lazy to mark your degrees and make sure everything is straight, then that is kind of not what our goal is. Our goal is to create a symmetrical design, or something that is intentionally asymmetrical. So once you have created your design here, the second thing that I'm grading, other than your creation of a systematic, symmetrical design, is your creation of depth. So what I did was I went in and I erased the other circles that went through here, and I placed this one on top. Then this one is next, and then this one is on the bottom. These I melded together, I guess. So to do that, you just erase, and you kind of have to recreate a line combining those two. And then this one needs to be lined up here. Okay. So now I've got a figure 8 kind of loop, but it's more than just a figure 8.
I was wondering, what if we want them to like intentionally be laid over each other?
Yep, if you want one to be on top of each other, then you just erase those lines. So like here, I want this one to be on top of the other one. So I'm going to erase these lines here. Now this one is on top of that one. You can have them link together, like hooked, so that like this one is over the top here, so it's going to be underneath here. So then I have to erase this line here to make this one go on the top. So that's kind of linked together now, like a chain.
I meant more of like not having the depth, and like because like my design is like color blending, because like each circle is going to be a different color.
Mm-hmm.
Where they overlap, they're going to kind of be together.
Right, but you did say they're going to overlap, so you are creating this space and the depth, and that's my only requirement, is that you do create space or depth somewhere with overlapping or with combining, either one. Okay? Does that answer your question? Yeah?
Yes.
Okay. So then the next stage that you will need to do in order to plan your project is you're going to be thinking about how you're going to fill these negative spaces. So positive spaces where there is something. So the pathways and the concentric circles that we created, That's your thing that's on top, right? Even if there is a middle and bottom layer already, you're going to have designs that are in these spaces, okay? And you can create these spaces by shading them so that they look three-dimensional if you want to, or you can fill them with designs. So our next part of our assignment is to do some brainstorming. And I'd like you to come up with 8 different designs that you think would be cool to use in the spaces of your project. Okay? So the way that you're going to do that, you can use inspiration from the worksheets that I provided in that Zentangle document online. And what you're going to do is you're going to kind of reverse engineer them. So if I want to recreate this centipede design, I need to look at that and kind of study it and analyze how it was done. So I've got a row of circles that are touching each other and are the same size. So I can observe that and I can recreate that with my drawing. Okay. Then the next row, the next thing is, there's a bump line, I guess, kind of along that edge. So I'm going to recreate that. You're basically breaking down and figuring out how was this design made and how can I recreate it. So any of these designs that you like, you can recreate. Okay, and then they left enough space, they could create another line of circles that are touching each other. And another bump line. Now if I don't want to copy this perfectly, I can be inspired and I can put a little diamond in there. I can color that in with a shape. I can kind of do my own thing to enhance it. This centipede design has 2 little lines in each one. I could do 2, I could do 3, I could do squiggly lines. You are the artist, so you're using this as inspiration, but that doesn't mean that you can't adapt it to show your own creative style. Okay, if you have markers, you can use markers on this project. If you have a Sharpie or something like that that you want to use. You can also use colored pencils. That's totally fine. So basically, you're just analyzing a few of these that you like, or using them as inspiration to create your own idea. I have a shape on here that is football shaped here, so I was trying to figure out ideas of what I could do for a design inside of that. Oops, I've zoomed in. I need to go back out. So I've got this space to work with. I need to figure out something that's going to go in that space. So if I fill this in, or if I do a second outline around these to fill that space in, then I'm starting to kind of fill that in. I can use my hatching lines to fill in the background part so that the flowers show up better, because they kind of get lost and don't show up very well. So you're designing images, decorative, or just lines, could be drawings, to fill these spaces. So then if I've got that flower pattern here, 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 and here, with these going over the top of it, that might look kind of cool. So I'm problem solving, I'm brainstorming, and I'm planning for my project. I kind of like this scale pattern. I want to do the scale pattern out here, maybe. So you're going to come up with 8. And what I would have you do is fold your paper in half, and in half. That gives you 8 equal spaces. And on this paper, you're going to come up with 8 ideas for designs. They don't have to be copied off of this, but they can be. They can be inspired by this and the other images that I uploaded earlier today. And you're going to turn this in a photo of this is going to go into your portfolio as your evidence of learning for this project. Okay, so this will be part of your overall grade. And it will allow you to kind of plan and think ahead of what you want to do to fill in your design that you've come up with. Okay.
So we have to do a rough draft for this one.
If you have come to school and gotten the circle maker and you've got something and you've got the big paper and everything, you don't have to use that whole paper. You can trim it down. But if you come up with something great the first time and there's not a lot of like eraser marks and it's very symmetrical, it's not like off anywhere, you can use that first initial design. I won't make you redraw it if it's good. If it's got a bunch of eraser marks or like one circle's totally off, you need to correct that either by making a final copy or by erasing and correcting it there. Does that answer your question good enough?
Yeah.
Okay. So as a reminder, your value scale, remember your value scale, dark to light, is used to create the illusion of depth and form. So I'm going to be using those coloring scales, whether you use colored pencils or whether you use pencil or whether you use Sharpie. I'm going to show you some Sharpie ones here in a minute. But so now I've established that this ring is overlapped by these two using shading techniques. Okay, I can come in here. I'm not going to go as dark because I want there to be a difference between this layer, which is the darkest because it's the furthest down, and this layer. But I'm going to use these shading skills. You can do colored pencils, you can do pencil, either one. Okay. If you remember last year, in our graffiti project that we did in 7th grade, this is laminated, I'm sorry, so it's kind of shiny, but just to review quickly, remember your hatching lines. Where your hatching lines are closer together, it's going to appear denser. Where you leave space between the lines, it's going to be lighter. The same can be done with the stippling. You can use multiple colors with your shading, a light, a medium, and a dark color. Your cross hatching does the same thing. Okay. Scumbling, where you make your lines very close together, it's going to appear darker. Where you leave spaces, it's going to appear lighter. So in your final, on your pathways, if you wanted to use those skills, if I wanted to do some scumbling, I'm going to make a solid line here right next to my overlap, and then I'm going to start with my scumbling very densely at first, and then I'm going to leave more and more space as it comes out. You can color pencil over the top of that if you have a Sharpie. Most of you guys have Sharpies, probably. I know you all have Sharpies at school anyway. So you can use the scumbling to do that. You can use stippling. Remember, the stippling is the dots, tiny, tiny dots. Where the dots are very dense and close together, it's going to look darker. They can come out. So this is a little bit more advanced than, you know, the 6th grade. We learned how to do the value scale, and it's probably the most used skill in all of your art tools that you have. But the second most used is the texture lines. So you have your stippling, you can do scumbling, you can do hatching. If you start in with your hatching, where it's close together, and then you're going to leave more and more space as it gets further out. The hardest part about the hatching lines on these is that you don't want to outline this, because then it's kind of going to, you want to come in from the outside edge to make that a nice sharp edge. Okay, so hatching, cross hatching, stippling, scumbling, value scale, those are the skills that you're probably most likely going to use on your pathways to create your depth and to make those look three-dimensional. If you want to, you can also shade your cylinder form. You know, you can do dark to light to dark. You can do that with different colors of colored pencil. If you have colored pencils, you could use crayons. If you have crayons, it doesn't really matter. Any illusion of form that you give to these is going to make it look like these cool rings that are interlacing or interacting and that are floating over this surface that you're going to create in the background. Okay. Do you guys have any questions about this project, about how you create the design or how you are going to be filling it in? Okay.